Welcome, everybody. It's 5 o'clock in the evening, and I hope everyone is well. My name is Thomas Graf. I work for eFellowsNet for more than 20 years, actually, and some of you might know me from MBA days, from master days, or as an ex-head of marketing at eFellowsNet. So welcome to this webinar. I'm very happy to present to you an interesting topic and two very interesting people. First of all, I would like to introduce you to Professor Lee Newman. He's the new, freshly new Dean of IE Business School following Dr. Martin Böhm. You may have met Martin last year. Lee, welcome to this webinar.
Thank you, Thomas.
Great to have you with us. And I would also like to introduce to you Mrs. Michalina Madra. She's the head of the DACH region for IE. DACH is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, obviously. And she will be here to answer all the questions you might have regarding application processes, entry requirements, etc. She's the representative of IE in Germany. She's actually in the same city that I live in, Munich, and she's the best person to talk to right here if you don't want to fly to Madrid. So welcome, everybody, and I think we have a very interesting topic. The headline was Master and MBA of the Future, but beyond that headline, there are many, many topics that we can raise today and tackle upon regarding this transformation process, education under Corona or hopefully post-Corona times. In the next hour, you will have the opportunity to ask your questions in the chat. I received already many questions, and I will bundle them and occasionally include them. And definitely in the end, we'll have enough time. But for the moment, I would say, Lee, since I have the opportunity to have you here one-to-one, what would the Master or MBA of the future look like? Is there a change of the Master of MBA post-Corona versus pre-Corona?
Sure. Well, that's obviously a relevant, very pertinent question. Before we dive into that, I wanted to just say that just for the students, you know, I teach behavioral leadership and behavioral decision making. So we talk a lot about kind of our biases. So I just wanted to say, look, you know, that the way I see this, I mean, I am representing IE. I'm the Dean of IE Business School, and I've been at IE for 12 years and was the Dean of the School of Human Science and Technology, where we had specialized business programs for 10 years. But really today, I'm not here so much representing IE, but really as someone who's been in higher education for 20 years, also 4 years in management consulting, 8 years in tech startups. So really my goal and my purpose here with Thomas today is to help you make good decisions. And I just wanted to make that clear. So, you know, I can comment on things related to IE because that's what I know and in specifics, but really, I'd like to try to help as best I can with helping you make decisions, because deciding what to study, where to do it, how to do it is tough. I've been there before and it's tough. So let me help. So let's dive into the question. So what does the business masters or MBA of the future look like? So I do think, just to kick it off here, that so the pandemic has changed some things, right? I mean, a lot of us have been working from home, or you know, a mix of working, and we've had many students studying both in the school and also in hybrid mode somewhere else, but attending all of their classes. So I think we all have a sense now that, you know, education is a little bit more independent of format than we used to think. There used to be this idea that somehow online education wasn't quite the same thing as doing it in the classroom. And it is a different experience, right? I mean, you can't go out for your grosse bier, you know, afterwards, after class, if you're in one place and some of your colleagues are in another, but it's a great educational experience. So I think my short answer is what's changed is that we're more open to online education.
Right.
But happy to keep going with this, Thomas, if you want to keep pushing on that question. Well, there's more there.
There's absolutely more there. One of the key questions that I received in the last year was, hey, Thomas, I was originally interested in a full-time program, whether a Master of Science or an MBA, but now in Corona times, full-time programs don't exist. I mean, at least not 100%. So why shall I go for a full-time program? Should I rather go for a part-time program? What would you answer to these people?
So, well, first, and here I do have to speak on behalf of IE. I mean, we've been open the whole year. So, you know, we don't, so that sort of kind of either or choice. I mean, for us, it's we've had students 100% at IE in class all year. And it's true that we had a few, sections that would go home for 10 days if someone tested positive, but we managed it incredibly well. So we had, testing, constant testing, free testing. So for us, it comes down to not so much what do I have to do, but what do I want to do? And I think that part-time studies are different than full-time studies when we think about it, not as format, but as dedication. So we can split there. So format is, are we having this meeting format online here, or could we be in a room somewhere in Germany having this face-to-face? That's format. But really part-time is about balancing studies with the rest of your life, in particular your work life if you have a job or you're doing a startup. So I think one consideration is, first, how good of a multitasker are you? So for those of you who say, I'm excellent, I'm an amazing multitasker, then I think, sure, then, if you have a job that you're excited about, you want to keep progressing in that same company and you want to study at the same time, and you think you can manage it with your personal life as well, then a part-time program is fantastic because you keep the job and you go for your degree. But I think other people say, look, I don't really want to multitask. I really want to dedicate myself 100% of my time to both social and the academic experience of a degree. And I think that's a very different decision and very personal.
Actually, that's the best answer I received to the question so far and asked many people. The answer is really dedication. Do you want to do it in 1 year in a condensed way, dedicated way, or do you want to spread it? And that's independent of Corona or pandemics.
Yeah, and just to build one little extra piece I didn't mention. So when you do it full time, so there's obviously you mentioned the word concentration, Thomas. So, diving into studies, there's something to that in a certain way, because you can go deeper mentally because you're not balancing it with being a marketing manager at a company.
Exactly. Sure.
But there is an advantage to part-time as well, in the sense that when you do it full-time, you're out of your company. So you can think back to projects you were doing in your past jobs and bring that thinking into the classroom in your full-time, MBA or your full-time program. But if you're doing it part-time, you have current projects. So I'm a marketing manager at a fast-moving consumer goods company, and I could bring that to the class.
Actually, when I did my executive MBA at IE in 2006, you gave me both. You gave me a part-time program, and you asked me to do it in 1 year. So that was a lot of pressure. But
yes, but you had the benefit. But you had the benefit of being able to take, let's say, your finance course or your marketing course, and you were doing it on the job. So you're applying it in your real job. So that's one thing to think about for those of you who have a job.
Absolutely. Actually, a related question was, is there any disadvantage for me as a master future student or MBA student to do a full-time MBA now in fall 2021? In other words, is there any argument in favor of postponing my studies? Let's say I am dedicated. I want to do a full-time program. I want to concentrate 100% on the program and not on my company, or not split it. But is there any disadvantage that I could face? Any reason why you would recommend me, no, please wait another year and then you do your full-time program?
So
regarding the crisis.
Yeah, so it's a postponement question. And I think, there's things we can postpone in our lives. For me personally, education is not generally one of those things. I think education is a special thing. And I think we arrive at a point where we realize that we want this education. And so, I steer towards doing it sooner rather than later, because life is very unexpected, and you might decide to do it now. And if you do it, you do it. And then you're in school and you are going to get a master's degree if you do the work and you get good grades.
Right.
But you say, well, I'm going to do it in a year from now. But a year from now, a family member has a health crisis. You get a job that you didn't expect, and now you're working in that job, snowballs, and you become a fantastic professional, and you never go back and get that MBA because you were successful in your job without it. So, it's hard to predict those things. So my sense is, if you have that feeling of, this is the time in my life where I see education as an ingredient in my kitchen to cook really a next stage of my career, then I would say do it. And from our standpoint, there's no reason to postpone it, because and there are some other schools out there as well, come to Madrid, do it in Madrid, or do it part-time online. now it's the same experience, really.
Right.
So you don't have to postpone it because of the pandemic or because you want the face-to-face, but you can't have it because you can't have it in some schools.
I couldn't agree more, actually. Now, even though we have the flavor to have you here and provide benefits to the students that go beyond IE, that are general benefits and tips, still, I would like to take the opportunity to ask you how IE managed through the crisis. I did many webinars now with business schools, and I asked them, how did you manage through the crisis? And my personal impression was that schools managed the crisis quite differently. In terms of technological aspects, how do they organize their studies, their teaching, etc. Maybe even the crisis for some business schools is even a chance to position themselves and differentiate themselves. So my question would be, maybe you could give us a little insight on how IE managed through the crisis. How did you deal with the students, with the content, with the studies, and also with the career service, for example?
Sure. Happy to do that. So we basically, I mean, most importantly, we followed the laws of Spain. I mean, every school has to follow the health rules of their health ministry. And we did that, of course, and in some cases went further when it was allowed to go further, when that was also legal. But we did, I mean, we basically put TVs and mics, for hybrid learning in every classroom, and we were 100% online as a university within 2 weeks of deciding to do it when the crisis really hit Europe and Spain in particular. So we did it that fast because we were already a very online savvy school. I mean, we've always been face-to-face. We're not an online school in that sense, but so we went very fast. So we were 100% online ready in a few weeks, literally, with some bumps in the road, of course, but we got there very fast.
So hybrid, sorry to interrupt. Hybrid means that students were in the classroom, professors were in the classroom, and other students were through a broadcast or through a Zoom conference at the same time, simultaneously involved?
Yeah. So I mean, when Spain went into confinement, of course, nobody was in the classroom, and everything was online. But then, as we came out of confinement, people had a choice. Students had a choice. So bachelor students, we care here about masters. So master students could say, "Listen, I need to be home with my family in Germany, for example, or no, I want to stay in Madrid. I mean, my friends are here, et cetera." And so we basically had hybrid. So you could be physically in class. We had people every other seat. We split classes of 40 or 50 into 2 sections to comply with social distancing.
Sure.
And then basically people had a choice. So you might have been in a section of 28, and I go to introductory financial accounting today, and 14 of my 28 classmates were there. One is home because she or he felt that they had a close contact and wanted to get tested and didn't want to go to class. And then there might have been 10 other people who were not in Spain, but were all back at their home countries, attending class, and they were on the screen in the classroom, mic'd. And so, you had this dialogue between physical students in class, virtual students remotely attending, and the professor in the classroom, or in some cases, even the professor potentially remote.
Awesome. That sounds really awesome.
And we had just to add to that, we have an app that has a health passport. So every day, every student, every staff member, every professor at IE, you answer a 3-question survey that basically asks you, have you been, do you have symptoms? Have you been in close contact, et cetera? And then if you say no, it's an honor system. You get a green light, and then when you go through our face recognition entry points in the school, it knows if your passport's green and you get in. If not, if it's red, you're not allowed in the building.
Maybe a question also from Michalina is, did you actually face the changes in the last year regarding the number of applicants? Did it increase, stagnate, or was there any kind of change, any trend that you observed in the last year?
On the beginning of the pandemic, it was a little bit less because people were very worried about going to Spain. But actually, as we told the candidates that our campus has been open, many students preferred going to IE and having face-to-face classes than going somewhere where they couldn't attend. So yes, the numbers weren't very much affected.
Yeah, I mean, on the whole, our last year was essentially equal to the year before, minus some deferrals for some people that they couldn't come because they were in a region of the world where they couldn't get out. And then they deferred. So we have many students from Latin America, in addition to to Europe and the United States, and
Right.
i.e.
Right.
in Latin American, some of them, just deferred a year because they couldn't get out.
Right. Okay, let's go back a bit more on the general level.
Sure.
What would you recommend students or professionals who aim at applying for a master's degree? With master's, of course, an MBA is also a master's degree, but with master's degree, I refer to Masters of Science, Masters of Arts, postgraduate degrees for graduates with no work experience or just a little bit of work experience. Or on the other hand, to professionals who aim at applying for an MBA, what would you recommend to them? How should they select their business school, in your opinion? What would be the criteria for them? Maybe affected through the pandemics, or maybe independent of pandemics?
Sure. I mean, well, I think we have to make the choice. You have to make the choice related to the dedication, part-time, full-time, and then you have to make your choice about whether you want to be in a school where you can be face-to-face or one that's not. But putting that aside, so I spent a lot of time talking to companies and recruiters. And I think that that's really important for a school to do, because the skill sets I see are changing. The needed skill sets are changing really rapidly. I mean, so you can find jobs that didn't exist 5 years ago, and there's tons of job openings in those areas now, right? Like, customer experience designer, and that didn't exist 5 years ago, right? And that's why we launched the Masters in Customer Experience Design. So my advice to those of you out there that are considering, business education at the postgraduate level and choosing schools is, when I talk to those recruiters and I ask them, what skills do you think are the most important? The answer is pretty consistent globally in different industries and sectors, et cetera, which is soft skills are incredibly important. And I hate the term soft skills because there's nothing soft about them. Every recruiter is saying
it's true.
I mean, every recruiter says to me when I talk to them, the graduates of higher education and business education need, what I call behavioral skills, right? And to be honest, we don't see schools delivering them enough. And so it's a constant.
Such as leadership, such as self-management, such as team leadership.
Yeah, but which are general terms, but really, they want specific things. They want you to be able to sell, not even if you're not a salesperson. They want you to be able to sell your ideas, to sell your proposals. They want people who can handle conflict. I mean, teams around the world now and global companies are incredibly diverse. And it is not trivial for, let's just say, not me because I'm American, not German, but you as Germans, you come to a place like IE, you're in a team, in a classroom of 40 people, you're in a team of 6 with Italians and Brazilians and Japanese and Nigerians, and getting that team together and functional and getting through your differences is not trivial. And yet you got to do it in the real world. And so school is like a lab for that. So that's an example of, conflict management, interpersonal skills, but many things, self-management that you mentioned, Thomas, time management, project management, and now these days, agile. So all of these kind of, let's say, workplace behavioral skills, recruiters say are critical. So I would make that one of your choices.
How can students? Yeah, makes totally sense to me. Also, the terminology. Well, how can future candidates find that out? How strong a school is regarding the teaching of behavioral skills?
So the straightforward thing would be look at the website, look at the brochures, but you'll see a lot of words, about leadership and management skills and self-management, the words that you use.
It's like a marketing claim.
But push a little further and look at what are the actual courses you're going to get. And then I would ask, admissions people, are those, conceptual courses? Am I going to get, courses on team dynamics and the theory, but say it in a positive way so that you want them to actually say yes. But really what you want are less of those theoretical courses, and you want courses where there's role playing, courses where you're getting out there and practicing. And I would also talk to recent graduates, if you can, alumni of these schools, and ask them, how much did you learn from your classmates working in teams? Not learn about finance or marketing, but how much did you learn about being a better professional, a better version of you from the experience you had with your classmates and your teammates in particular? And if the answer to that question is not that much, I would have some doubts. If the answer to that question is that's one of my biggest sources of learning, then I think that is a great sign.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Hopefully to the others as well. Another question is about the distinction between specialized masters and general management masters. So for everyone here, you may know me also from my private website, the Master Management Compass. I focused on MBA and Masters in Management, MIM. Masters in Management, basically, you will agree, Lee, I guess, are for graduates without or with only little work experience, Masters of Science in Management, for instance. And MBA, of course, they have concentrations, they have electives, but they are general management programs. On the other hand side, we have specialized masters, Master in Marketing, Master in Strategy, Master in Behavioral Science, Master in Organizational Behavior, basically in all existing business disciplines, correct me if I'm wrong. And particularly IE is an institution that I experienced as an institution with a really huge portfolio, strong portfolio of different directions. How would you, what would you recommend the students if they are not sure whether I should go for general management education that keeps kind of doors open, but is not very clear, is not very concrete in a sense, versus an expert education, a specialized education, which is quite narrow, but provides me with deeper knowledge?
So yes, it's one of the tough questions that the people out there are have to answer, and I'm of course biased because my mission at IE was basically to build the school around specialized business masters. And I launched about 12 of them in 5 years, but I think it's important to recognize that neither is a bad choice. I mean, if you say I think I might want to be working in the world of marketing and communications, or I think I might want to be working in the world of finance or business analytics. Neither a MIM or an MBA on the general management side, let's say, or a master's in analytics or a master's in marketing or a master's in whatever, neither of those choices will necessarily close your doors to where you could go in that particular career pathway that you want. It's really a question, I think, of how you get started. Okay. And so if you do a master's in business analytics, you go in to your job, you're going to get a job. Like our students that do business analytics, they get jobs at McKinsey, BCG, they get jobs in analytics departments within companies. And they hit the ground running in the sense that they know all these statistical models that, they can take data and use, day one, they are running with data. Okay. Now, what challenges are they going to face in terms of what are the potential issues what are the walls they need to climb in the first couple of years on the job? Well, for them, as they grow, it's going to be, well, I don't have general management skills. I haven't taken a lot of different courses in business. So they would have to start to learn those things on the job. If we flip it around, if you do a master's in management and let's say, and you might do a track in business intelligence, for example, or business analytics or digital business. So, you still hit the ground running. You have training and you have a great business acumen. So you're going to understand business a bit better than the specialized students, right? Because that's what you spent your time in. But then what are your challenges in the first couple of years? Your challenges are, if that first job you get is in a marketing department and they say, listen, we really want you to work on digital marketing, in particular on some customer analytics and profiling. You're not hitting the ground running on statistical modeling and doing some clustering analysis because you didn't do business analytics, or digital marketing. So that's what you got to learn on the job. So it's just a question of, I think, more of your interest.
The gaps to fill.
Yeah, either one, you're going to get a job in the general area that you want, especially for more pre-experienced, early experienced people. And it's a question of, you're going to have to fill in gaps, whether they're more on general business acumen or specific gaps in that more narrow career pathway, which you're going to work in, right? Because younger people are not jumping into management jobs when they graduate from any school. So I think that's really the choice is really your interest, because I think you got to be you want to be motivated, you want to enjoy your studies. And I think, if the idea of taking a bit of finance, a bit of accounting, a bit of HR, a bit of operations, and then specializing in a particular area sounds good to you, then, a general management degree like an MBA or a MIM is fantastic. Yeah. But if you say, I just love marketing and communications, I want to really go deep into that, but broad inside of that. I want the creative part, I want the analytical part of marketing, and I don't really care about HR and operations and finance right now, then do a Marcom degree.
Right. Yeah. Couldn't agree more, actually. I always recommend people, if they ask me at our MBA days or master days, that they should try to try to reflect as much as possible before they start to study what they want to do afterwards. That's what I recommend to them always. The more concrete they know before, what they want to do, maybe where they want to do it in the industry, maybe even some target employees, the better it is for the choice of their studies. That's what I say. But some of them tell me, yeah, that's true, Thomas. But in reality, I simply have no clue at the moment. I have some tendencies, fine, but I would like to use the year of studies or postgraduate studies for finding that out. Would you say that the postgraduate studies are an option also for reflecting your own career situation, or is that too late?
I mean, I think in general, that's one of the most important parts of going to business school is getting yourself on track for a particular career pathway. But we know, and I'm sure all of our participants today are probably in that situation where it's not always clear. So I think to your point, Thomas, it's one that I didn't make, but maybe we should emphasize, is that if you have a lot of clarity that, I want to be in the Marcom world, or I love numbers, so I'm either doing finance or analytics, then maybe a specialized master, you're making a good choice there. And as I said before, you can't make a wrong choice. But if you're very open and you really don't know, I have a creative side of me. I like marketing. I like customers, but actually I'm really good at math and I like numbers and patterns.
Sure.
Maybe you should, then the general management degree starts to sound pretty good. Because it's going to be a more broad in exploration, and that exploration helps you channel yourself towards the right career.
Sure. Still, I wonder how much the time of during the full-time program, how much you have time in essence to reflect your next career step. I remember talking to many IE students actually when I was in Madrid, who told me that the first 2 parts of the studies, they are pretty under pressure, under work pressure. But then they have a little bit more time to find their electives and to reflect on their career future. Is that an option also, taking a year off from work to learn, to build up knowledge, to build up networks, to build up competencies, but also to reflect on what exactly you would like to do as a next career step now that you are experiencing new input, new education?
So you're just to make sure I answer the right question. So can you use that for that 1 year period for career reflection while you're studying?
Yes. Or is it too late from your perspective?
No, I think the sooner you can narrow your choices, the better, because then you can choose your electives or your options in whatever the program is. But I think that's what education is about, is learning about yourself. And so I think some of it it's true that you're busy, as Thomas said, you're incredibly busy in any master's program, at least the ones I know about. But the thing is, that reflection isn't always active. It's not always explicit. Sometimes it's explicit, but you take a class in marketing and you don't do very well. Right. And you say to yourself, why didn't I do so well? And the answer, you sort of start to realize this is just not my thing. And then you take an analytics course and a finance course and even an accounting course, you say, I like this stuff. Right. And so, you're not necessarily thinking deeply about it and doing self-assessments, and you could be, but, it's a process I think it's a mental process of elimination for things that you don't like. And then the things that come up. Yeah. I'm clear in your choices.
Well, I also personally made the experience that my perspectives changed during the program. My attitudes and perspectives on the world, on the business world, of course, but also my career changed. It was a personal transformation process. That's what I experienced. And I guess that's part of the game that some people overlook when they just look on the numbers and
I couldn't agree more. 200% agreement, if there's such a thing. And that's my message when we do our openings. That's my message to postgraduate students, is that, if you're awake, you do the work, you study hard, you're going to get your degree and you're going to get the hard skills, let's say, automatically, in a sense, if you put the effort into it. But I think the bigger part of education is transformation. And I think you enter school as one version of yourself. And that version has been successful at some things in school or in work, and not so successful at some other things, right? And has some gaps to be filled. And I think that 1 year or so that whatever it might be, of doing postgraduate education is about getting rid of your ego and coming to terms with like, what are my gaps? You know, I'm not a great listener and I'm not so good. I'm a little scared of kind of doing analytical stuff. I'm much more of a creative guy, and recognizing that I actually need to invest a little time and energy in becoming more analytical because it's required of every business person. And I got to work on my listening skills. And so, and then doing it, right. And using that year as a laboratory for transformation, to use your word, Thomas. And I think that that's just absolutely critical and equally important to what you study in the classroom.
That's self-reflection. Well, let's take that opportunity to talk a little bit on career outlooks for master's graduates or for MBA graduates. I mean, not just education has changed, definitely, but also the business world has changed right now. Personally, I made the experience that some companies recruit less people, are a bit more cautious depending on how the supply chains develop, particularly international companies, global companies who depend on markets in East Asia, for instance. So on one hand side, I saw some disadvantages for future employees. On the other hand, I thought education is pretty much strong. Can you tell us something about trends in career placement? Can you give us statistics? Can you tell us if more or less or the same companies recruited at IE, for instance, these days?
Sure. So let me hit a couple of different points there. So on the positive side, we'll start with the positive. On the positive side, one interesting consequence of the pandemic is that all companies had to recruit more broadly than they're used to doing. So, you know, as we know in business school world, some companies, they choose a set of top business schools and they only go to those schools for recruiting, right? And they won't go to any other schools. But with the pandemic, we and many schools started hosting virtual career fairs, right?
All right.
And so, I mean, we tend to get those companies that do come to campus, but what we saw is many more companies that don't have the resources even to come to many campuses around the world. So US companies recruiting in Europe, for example, all of a sudden you see it's super easy to go to many more schools and actually try to recruit the best students from more schools instead of kind of having to drill down deeper to get your recruitment quota from from a smaller number of schools. So that's great news for you as potential students, is that, regardless of the schools you go to, there's a lot more companies recruiting virtually, which is great, more exposure for you.
Right.
I think on the negative side, we of course saw that placement rates went down a bit. I mean, not for us, not precipitously, but they did go down. But more broadly than the pandemic, I think what we're seeing is that, especially for junior profiles, for people that are just coming out of university or have only a couple of years of experience when they do their masters, the internship has become in many countries the gateway to a full-time job.
Oh yeah. All right.
Which is not great. If I was 24, I wouldn't be excited about that, but that's how it works. But so you do an internship and you nail it. You have to hit the ground running, do a great job, and then you get the job. But you got to start with an internship. So again, that's where the soft skills comes in, because they're going to be looking at you not just for like how well you do the marketing project that they asked you to do, but how well do you fit, how well do you get along with other people. And that's where learning to work in diverse teams and the soft skills, the behavioral skills comes in.
Still, I think you will agree that asking an MBA graduate to do an internship will be difficult, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the MIMS.
Of the MIMS.
And it really depends on someone's age. So MBA is right, or not to an internship, just to clarify there. Yeah. But in our internship rate wasn't particularly high, but that's what you see. That's one trend that we see globally. Another is companies are really demanding much more in analytical skills. So
education even gains importance these days.
Yeah. So old world, Excel spreadsheets, right? Everybody had to learn Excel, and whether it's marketing.
I'm still in the old world.
Yeah, I mean, many of us, but so doing your accounting and marketing, whatever, in your Excel spreadsheets is still, I would say, predominant. But when you're evaluating schools, I would look to see what other stuff they're offering you, because Excel is going to be kind of not the tool of the choice in the future. It's going to be plug and play analytics tools that let you clean your data, mess with your data 10 times faster than in Excel, give you much better visualization. So and you don't have to be in finance or consulting or in business analytics to have companies require that you have those kinds of tech skills. I mean, even someone in communications that, used to be a more, let's say, people-oriented and or creative role, they say, listen, I need you to go into the Twitter sphere or whatever it might be and get some data and run some numbers and give us a sense for the sentiment that we're seeing on our product, on this brand in social media. And good luck with that in Excel.
I got it. Before we move on, I received two questions that are pretty much focused on specific programs. Maybe Michalina, you can help us out here. One question was, IE offers also a DBA program, so Doctor of Business Administration. For whom would you recommend it?
Yeah, so if you want, I can take that and then Michalina add on. So I get asked this question a lot. So basically, you have a PhD in the world and you have a DBA in the world of business, right? A PhD is a doctorate intended for people whose primary target is to do research and be in academia. And I know it's true in Germany that many more people get PhDs as part of their business profiles than in other countries. But typically a PhD is much more research oriented, whereas a DBA is a doctorate in business, but it's practitioner oriented. And so typically you do much more field work, and many people do a DBA while they're working. So it's sort of like MBA versus executive MBA in a certain sense. So a PhD is typically in most schools full-time. A DBA can be part-time. And I think that's the major distinction. And in many schools, the PhD has funding in the sense of you get a stipend because it's usually funded because you're going to become a researcher, a scientist of some kind, whereas DBAs typically are less well funded by schools or scholarships.
Christian, I hope this answer was sufficient for you. I can add that if you need any information on the IE DBA, just let me know and I bring you in contact with Miss Laura McGuire. She is the program manager. I was actually teaching DBA students quite some years ago. If you need more information, just let me know and I bring you in contact. And the other question focusing on a specific program was on the Global Executive MBA Leadership and Talent Development. Particularly, the question was if beyond the number of years required for the job, if there's something beyond. Michalina, maybe you can tackle on that question?
Sure. So apart from the years of work experience and being in a managerial role, we look for a right IE fit, people who have the open mindset, who have international experience. Of course, the minimum detail is having the undergraduate degree. But our approach to look in candidates is more like holistic view and not just 2 or 3 specific things, but the broad picture of the candidate. I don't know if that answered the question.
I don't know either. I hope so. Maybe a follow-up question. How did you find out about the broad picture? Is it just a CV, or do you find that out through the interview?
Well, it's a quite complicated process that the candidate have to go through us, right? It's not just filling in the application process, but they have to go through online assessment. They have to have an interview with us. There is some tests that they have to pass. And of course, on the CV, we see, has the person just been in one job for many years? Have they gone outside of their home country? So there is many factors that we actually look at when we consider candidates.
Seems it has been easier in my times to get in.
Like we adapt to the world, right? The world is changing, and so are we.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth clarifying. So the global executive, because sometimes these acronyms get confusing across different schools. So our global executive MBA is one of our most senior programs, and so this is for people that are typically in the age range of about 35 to 38 with significant leadership and management experiences. But sometimes that gets confused with our global online MBA, which is an online MBA, not an executive MBA. So those two are different. Just to make sure, I don't know which the participant today was asking about, but they both start with G and have MBA in them. So
no, he literally wrote Global Executive MBA, Leadership and Talent Development.
So I assume it's the senior one, but yeah.
There's another question from Leon. What characteristics are most important for a dual degree master?
So I would say for dual degree masters, one critical characteristic is persistence and resilience. I mean, we have many dual students at IE. And what I can tell you is that, on the positive side, they get great jobs because, having a general management degree like a MIM or an MBA, and then combining that with a degree in customer experience design or market research or business analytics, you get the best of both worlds that I described before. And companies know that, and the placement's outstanding. It's a lot of work, right? We have a way of doing it where the elective period of the general management degree gets replaced with the specialized degree. So it reduces the time. So it's efficient in that sense, right? It's not 1 + 1, so to speak. There's a lot of time savings.
Yeah.
But it's on the one hand, you get to spend, if you do it in Madrid, you get to spend more time in a wonderful city. But you got to be ready to study, and your brain changes from the general management side to the specialized side, but it's a great degree to do. Okay. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I hope that answers the question too. I realized over the years that not just at IE, but in general, that tuition fees increased a lot over the years. And a question that Michael just posed here is, how have the wages for MBA graduates developed? I mean, as long as the wages increase, I'm happy to pay more for my studies, right? But the problem is if I have to pay more and more for my education and the wages go down or stagnate. So I think the question is quite interesting. How, from your perspective, did the wages for MBA graduates in that case develop?
So salary trends.
Salary trends, yes. Salary is the right word, not wage.
So for salary trends, I think it just depends. I mean, on region, it depends on a lot of things, but in general, MBA salaries are good. I mean, if you look at the GMAC data, they trend up, but it varies a lot depending on where you get your job, right, and where you work. Yeah. And so, tech-oriented jobs, analytics and tech-oriented jobs, obviously, are in high demand. So, basic economic supply and demand, those tend to confer higher salaries, right? Whereas, other career areas are less, but it really depends on the type of job you get and what you come in with also.
But in general, can you still see that there's a trend from your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, the trend I don't have the data at the top of mind, but I saw some GMAC data recently, and you can find it, with GMAC. But yeah, my recollection is that MBA salaries are trending up. I mean, they're not skyrocketing, but they're trending up globally. Right.
Michalina, here is another question from Leon on the admissions criteria for dual degrees. Leon, I guess you mean that if you have two separate admissions criteria, one for the one program and one for the other program, or is there a combined admissions criteria catalog?
No, there is just one process.
Same process.
One process, but
it's one process, yeah.
But if you're combining an MBA with a master's in finance, for example, I mean, we have standards for your analytical skills and math skills for a finance degree, and if you don't meet that, you wouldn't be able to do the dual. Same thing with business analytics. So you got to meet the criteria for both degrees, but it's one admissions process.
One admissions process. Allow me to add some information here from eFellows on scholarships and financing and MBA. We have an agreement with IE for many years. Lee, maybe you may not know that even. I started that process with Joel O'Donnell. Exactly, many years ago. Is he still alive?
He is.
we started a cooperation.
Joel lives.
We started a cooperation with IE, where IE offers several scholarships exclusively for eFellows. And eFellows is defined as either having the status of being an eFellows and an online scholarship holder, so being part of our own talent network or alumni club, or eFellow defined as someone who participated in master days and MBA days. In other words, where a selection process took place. Now, these exclusive scholarships for master degrees and for MBA degrees are on our website. You find them under Studium MBA. MBA scholarships. And I always recommend to you, if you apply for a program at IE, to take into account these scholarships, because you are not in competition with people from America, from Latin America, from Asia. You are only in competition with some other e-fellows. So the likelihood that you get one of these scholarships is quite high. And isn't it fantastic? You can at the same time apply for other scholarships as well. This is just side information for you. Luca Immer asked, what do you think is the biggest added value of IE Business School MBA Master's programs compared to other business schools? Now, that's an important question. How do you
could you repeat it? Because my
right.
sound went out for a second.
The question is, what do you think? What is the biggest added value of competitive advantage, added value of IE Business School's MBA and Master's programs compared to other business schools? What's the biggest added value? If you need to nail it down to one added value.
To one. So I have to go with one.
Well, you can give two or three, but I think Luca wanted to focus on one.
So I'll start with, I mean, the big one, just so I fit the rules here. So I would say the number one for me is that I have never been around a school, and I have quite a long experience in higher education that has the international diversity in the classroom as IE. I mean, that is just something, I'm from the US and I spent a lot of time at the University of Michigan. It was a huge school there. Not the same thing. I mean, so you can't underestimate the value you get out of being in a classroom of whatever it is, 40 or 50 people from 30 countries, typically 25 to 30, guaranteed. And it's every program at IE. It's not even an MBA. It's not even just the business school. Every program at IE has 40 or 50 students in a classroom typically, and from 30 countries. And there's value to that in the network that you develop, that you carry with you for your whole life. There's value to that, and that it forces you to learn these soft skills and learn how to get along with people. So those are just two of the benefits. So that's my number one. Of course, I have others, but that's my number one.
Oh, Luca is interested also in other added values. He just said not just one.
Okay.
So you can thank you, Luca. Well, I think we do take the time to really think about the behavioral skills, the soft skills that we talked about, and I think that that's really important. So that's something that we put a lot of effort into, and I think that distinguishes us from other schools. That would be number three for me, probably. Though number two, I think. Sorry, I just lost my thoughts. Getting late in the day here. So number two, though, for me, is really, I think, the overall experience, and the practicality of that experience. So many schools, still stick to kind of a very theoretical approach to learning, right? And that is the opposite of IE. So we are all about projects, team-based learning, or individual projects in some cases. I mean, every master's, let's say in every master's that we have, there are at least 2 or 3 corporate projects, significant corporate projects, in addition to, weekend hackathons and innovation-thons and those kinds of things. So I think that's a really distinctive factor for us and a handful of other schools that also have that value. But for us, it's really important that you have that. And I'll just, to reference that to careers, to get back to our earlier conversation, we talked about how hard or easy is it to get jobs these days. What we're increasingly seeing is that recruiters want experience, which might sound like a paradox, especially for those of you who don't have real work experience. You're just coming out of university. You say, well, I don't understand. I don't have experience. I go into a master's in management, having done an internship for 1 year. And then how am I going to get a job if they are asking me for experience? And the answer is, when they say experience, they of course want real world experience in real jobs if possible, but they highly value experience that you get during the program that is real experience. So for example, we have students that are in a market research and consumer behavior master, right? And every year they do a big market research project with the global company Telefonica, right? Or Nielsen, or whoever the company might be. And they spend 3 months doing market research with real data on a real company that is a client of Nielsen, for example, in that case. And that's real experience, right? I mean, when you work in management consulting, you typically have 3-month projects. So that's a 3-month project with coaches from the company And maybe you'll find your future workplace there.
And it's great exposure to a company that might hire you, for example. We just had some students that were with Radisson Hotels in a revenue management camp for a week, and 5 of them got internships or jobs out of that. So the practical skills is important for learning, but it's also important because it exposes you to companies and because they want experience. And that's what you put on your CV. 3-month project, in the wine industry, analyzing consumer behavior in wine.
That's interesting. Quite exotic topics, but it's interesting from a strategic perspective.
Yeah.
I can personally share my experience that, it was in 2006-07, but still during the executive MBA, we were 25 students in that executive MBA, 19 nationalities. So this is 80% international student. And that was really enriching because to everyone, you can imagine, it sounds like a bad joke when you say a German, a Swiss, people from India, a guy from Italy and a guy from the US sitting together in one room and have to negotiate, and everyone wants to be the leader and wants to be the opinion leader, and you run on a project and you will be evaluated on that. So that was really a rich experience, and a lot of friendships came out of that experience, I have to say. But this just on a personal note. What I experienced over the year from IE is also that you try, because the question came up, how you differentiate from other schools, is that entrepreneurship aspect, that basic philosophy that everyone should kind of think entrepreneurship ways. Now you have a master of entrepreneurship, you have a venture lab, I guess you have business plan, projects every year with business angels coming to campus. Can you tell us a little bit more about this entrepreneurship perspective that IE, or philosophy that IE?
Sure. It's a big part of our DNA. We were founded by an entrepreneur, as an institution. So we actually don't have a degree specifically in entrepreneurship, and the reason is because we believe it's a thread that has to go through everything, and that if someone has an idea coming into IE to start a company, then general management is a great degree to do. But if their idea is in a particular area, like marketing oriented idea, then we say do that degree. But then all of our students, no matter what degree they're in, have the opportunity to participate in the venture lab, we call it, and Area 31, which is this incubator. And so we invite any student in any program to get together. They work in teams that cross programs. So you might have a business analytics student doing a project with an MBA and a marketing communications student on the same team. And they go through the whole process with coaches and facilitators, putting together a business plan, pitching it. It's an actual competition. The winner, the finalists get to present in front of a community of venture capitalists and angel investors, private equity firms. So it's a great experience, and it's really part of our DNA. And we think that the best way to really get into the world of startups and entrepreneurship, if you're going to do it through school, is to do it through either general management or a more specialized business master, and work on your idea as part of your learning. So it's your project that travels with you through your finance course, your accounting course, your marketing course, and then
to grow up.
And then into the venture lab.
Perfect. We are nearly at the end, but since I have the honor to talk to you now, I would like to take the opportunity to ask you something personal. You are in the new position now of Dean of IE Business School since July 1st?
Yes, officially since July 1st. And of course, Martin, who some of you may know, he's German, and he was our former.
We did a webinar last year together.
Yeah. So Martin and I obviously were coordinating things and working together before the transition. But yes, technically June 1st.
So what's your impression so far? What are the strongest challenges, as long as you are allowed to talk about it, for you?
Well, I think I mentioned before, I think that I'm a big believer in being really close to the market and close to recruiters and tracking what skills they're hiring for. I think we're pretty good at it now, and our programs are very oriented towards the skills that recruiters want. But I want to go even closer. I don't think it's possible to be too close. And so, for example, I've just kicked off a whole program of alumni engagement. So for me, our alumni are like the eyes and ears on the front lines of business.
That's the McKinsey philosophy that you have.
Yeah, well, I spent my 4 years there, and my 3 or 4 years there, and so
the business model basically lives with alumni, McKinsey alumni, who bring businesses to the
yeah, and I'm a big fan of. I think if you learn one thing in business school, it's that you should never sit in a room and make decisions on your own in a vacuum, and that the quality of your thinking and the quality of your decisions needs to be crowdsourced to your colleagues and to people that you don't get along with, the people that see differently than you. And I've learned that over time. And so I reach out to people that, to be honest, I don't like them. We think totally differently. And they're always the people I go to, because they're the people I say, here's my idea. And they don't say they love it and they don't make me feel good. They say, in 10 seconds, they say, here's the 3 things I see wrong with it. And that's great because that person is the most likely to see what I don't see and find my blind spots. And everyone has those blind spots, and no one should have too big of an ego to recognize, to think that their ideas are perfect. So I'm using alumni, our IE alumni. We've got 60,000 alumni globally to help think about the future of IE Business School. And so I think that
that's your resource.
That's my resource. And I make the point just to also emphasize that when you go to a school, whatever school that all of you might choose, your alumni base from that school is a lifelong asset, so to speak. So when you're choosing what school to go to, you want to think about where are those alumni? Are they internationally diverse? Are they diverse in other ways? Because that's an asset you're going to carry with you your whole life, and you want the broadest asset that you can have, because it's an amazing resource.
Yeah, to everyone in the audience, I can tell you that there are many alumni clubs in Germany. We have one in Munich, for instance. And if you're interested in reaching out to these alumni, just to understand a little bit more from the perspective of an ex-student, just contact Michalina, I would say. She brings you in contact with the clubs, and it's really the best way to learn about IE from an ex-student's perspective. Right?
Absolutely. We actually have over 3,000 alumni in the DACH region, so it's a big network. And I have to say that the IE alumni, they make my job really easy, because they are super engaged and they always want to keep in touch, and they come to the events we organize. So it's a great community.
Hopefully the wine tasting sessions restart at some point again.
Definitely.
All right, it's 6 o'clock. Anyone else has a final question?
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. Now is the chance.
Shy business school requires a lot of in-class participation no matter where you go. So,
but in any case, we recorded, as discussed before, we recorded this webinar, and we will send it to everyone who didn't have the chance to participate but applied, so that they can just get the information afterwards. I have to say thanks a lot, Lee, for taking your time, and Michalina for taking your time. It was a pleasure for me, and it was in my opinion, it was pretty helpful for everyone who is watching out for a program, whether at IE or not. These are hands-on information on what employers want, what should be important when you apply in this jungle of business schools. Hopefully you receive some benefits and find it easier now to make the right decision. Thank you so much, Lee. I hope we can meet up in person someday in Madrid.
That would be great.
And have an espresso somewhere close to Calle Marina de Molina. And Michalina, we will stay in contact anyway, and we see each other around via Zoom or in Munich somewhere.
Perfect.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks to you, Thomas. Thanks to eFellows, great organization.
Thanks
and thanks to all the participants. Good luck with your choices. Good luck with your choices.
Have a great evening, everyone. Goodbye.